Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today I got another tutorial for you, this time with a 2-blade with the grain on top. You see he's got his hair grown out, and you always want to comb out the brush waves if you're going to be cutting them. Otherwise, the blades will just be smashing it down if you do it with a brush, and it's not going to cut the hair evenly. But that's why you always cut at a higher guard than what you may want. See, he told me a 1.5 on top, but I've been cutting long enough and I've seen the effort he put towards his waves. He doesn't want to show as much scalp as a 1.5 does. So what I did was I ran around with the 2-blade, looking out for the different directions of the hair growth, and cut them all the way down, just about. I didn't perfect it because I knew I wanted to show him the mirror and just make sure that this was a good length for him. You can't just blindly listen to a client's suggestions on numbers, even if they're very confident. Sometimes they're dead ass wrong, okay? And it's nothing against them. You've just been studying this field, so of course they're not as informed as you are. That's why people come to you as a professional. So we're just finishing up, cutting it down somewhat. Now I showed it to him and he said, yeah, I do like it longer like this. Yep, he ain't want to see the scalp. So again, we did a 2-blade with the grain. And now when I get into the crown area, I throw my 1.5 guard on there, lever all the way open. And I just kind of follow the direction in the swirl and I lower the lever as needed. Now I like to remove all the stray hairs with a air compressor followed by a hard bristle brush, which I did not show. And then now I'm using a soft bristle brush. Now using my bulk remover or sensitive area liners, I'm setting in my high fade, just removing the very bottom of that temple line and connecting it with the top of the ear where it connects to the head. Now with my magic clip lever all the way open, I'm establishing my second area, which is going to be about 1 inch in width. Now I close the lever halfway, and I go about halfway or 3/4 of the way into that lever open area. And then I'll close the lever all the way, and I'll focus on that line, removing the line between the bald and the lever all the way open area. And now with the 1 guard lever all the way open, I'll start my third area. This is about 1.25 inches wide. I noticed some bulk was above the blend area, so I'll just throw on my 1.5 guard, knocking it down as needed. Okay, now I have my 1/2 guard on. I have the lever about 3/4 of the way open, halfway open, and I go about 3/4 halfway into that 1 guard area. Then I close my lever to about halfway or quarter open, and I drop down to the halfway or quarter mark in that 1 guard area. Then I close the lever all the way, and I completely connect those 2 areas, which are the lever open no guard and then the lever open 1 guard. And remember, in the beginning when you're doing your areas and your initial blend, it does not have to be perfect because you're going to be laying down the hair and that could completely alter the blend anyway. So just do your best to follow the natural growth pattern, combing it in that direction to make sure that you're getting the appearance that's really going to be there and you're not tricking yourself. Okay, so I'm just running through all my lever positions, and now I took off the guard because it wasn't cutting low enough. It's as simple as that. If you have a dark area, you throw on a big guard. If it's not cutting, you lower the setting. If it's not cutting, you lower the setting. Don't overthink these things. Now for the bulk above my 1 guard area, I'm going to be using my thinning shears. Excuse me, my blending shears. The difference is blending shears are meant for blending and thinning shears are meant for texturizing and thinning the hair on top. Blending shears have 1 scissor side and 1 comb side. Thinning shears have 2 combs. And as I need to cut shorter or longer, I'll switch from the different sides of the comb, the wide tooth and then the close tooth to get for the short hair. You see, looking at it from that back angle, I noticed a very bold line of demarcation, which I'm removing now. Turning the chair, you'll see that I already have this side pretty much done, except for the blending shears. So again, I come in with the wide tooth comb part and I grab the bulk area, the dark spot above my blend, and continuing to comb the hair in a direction, in which case this side, it grows backwards. You'll see that a lot of times on clients where their hair grows towards the back in their taper area and you need to cut it in that way. Now Now I'll put my one guard on, lever about halfway open. I'm just playing around with it and removing that dark area in my blend that just didn't sit well with me. And half guard work. I don't have to make this perfect again because we're going to be laying it down with a product and readjusting it with the finish work. And I like to keep a clean canvas throughout my service, and it just helps with the cut as well as the comfort of the client. So removing all those cut hairs from the temple area before I grab my sensitive area liners and set in my bald line for this rear taper. You can see some choppiness up by his occipital bone, but with brush waves and tricky growth patterns, you have to know that that may change when you put products in and you lay it down. So you don't want to dig too much into that. So now above our bald line, we got the lever open area. Close it halfway, go 3/4 of the way into that area, close it all the way, get the line out. Now I do the other side. Lever open. Halfway, going halfway to 3/4 into that area. Now I close it all the way, get the line all the way out. Same order every time. This will allow you to get faster at it. You really fine tune it with your finish work. So we're running through these areas, one guard, lever open. Right, I wanted to get this bulk out of my way. It was distracting my eyes. Just going a little with the grain work here, not trying to take too much off. Just enough to give me a better perspective on the blending area that's below it. Okay, so now we have the one guard all the way open again for our third area. About 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches in width. Always flicking out. Whenever you're blending and setting in areas, you're always flicking out. You don't finish your clipper stroke by being connected to the scalp. You're flicking off of the scalp. Okay, just tidying up that area below there before I throw on my half guard. Lever 3/4 of the way, halfway open. Going 3/4 or halfway into the one guard area. Close the lever down to in between halfway and quarter way, and drop down to the halfway quarter mark in that one guard area. Now I close the lever all the way and completely remove that line between the no guard lever open and the one guard lever open areas. You'll see I'll do one side and then the other. Sometimes that's just for video purposes, because I got my camera set up right real close to the chair, so I kind of got to move around awkwardly. You see, it's looking kind of crazy above my blending area. That can get intimidating, but stick to your steps. Don't let it rattle you. You can end up starting to doubt things that are actually correct if you start getting too self-conscious or too worried or doubtful. Rely on the steps that you know to be correct. So now we have the 1.5 guard on, lever all the way open. And we're not trying to start another area. We're trying to blend this one guard, the top of the one guard area, into the top of the hair. So I'm just slowly removing a little bit of the darkness. Don't want to go up too high. We'll leave that for the finish work. So it's so important that you're combing the hair in between each clipper stroke to lay the hair down in its natural direction. Otherwise, it will be giving you a bad image of what the blend is. It's going to be showing you something that's not going to look the same in the end if you're not combing the hairs back down. Brushes sometimes mash the hair down and give you false sense of image as well. So that's why it's important to use a comb whenever you're cutting hair that's a one guard or longer. And you see on that right hand side, I didn't even have to use the 1.5 guard. Sometimes people's hair density varies, and sometimes the barber before took the blend up too high. Okay, so now I'm positioning the hairs how it's really going to lay when he styles it himself. And after brushing, I noticed some flaws in my blend. So I go ahead and adjust as needed, come in with a longer length than what I think it is, and then drop it down till you start hearing hair cutting. So now we got our blending shear work. This occipital area can be tough. Sometimes the hair bunches together naturally. Sometimes it's just pushed together because it needs to be combed out. But you see, I got the side where the teeth are the closest together so that I could cut some very short hair with these blending shears. Okay, I don't want to go up too high because I want to see what it looks like when I lay it down. I know I keep saying that, but it's so important. Nobody wants that sky-high taper. So, all right, I like to tilt my client upright because that's how he's going to be standing, and that can create different shadows as well. So I adjust it after I do that. Now that that blend's about 85% finished, I'll go ahead and use my air compressor tool and remove all the cut hairs before applying this product that's going to really help me lay down the waves in the desired pattern that I want and really prep it for a strong lineup that's not going to change when he goes home and combs and brushes in a couple days. So right now I'm using some foaming wrapping lotion, starting in the crown and working my way outwards all the way to the lineup, trying not to get too much on his skin that's outside of the line. Be mindful, it's not just all about the look of the haircut. Nobody wants to have the stiffness of holding spray or any type of gel or mousse or whatever on their skin when they leave the shop. So I try not to overdo it with the products. So I'm following that soft bristle brush with my hand and really trying to pack down and lay down that hair. Human hair has temporary and permanent bonds that can be broken and repositioned in the desired fashion. What we're doing now is breaking temporary bonds with a water-based product that's going to allow us to manipulate the hair and lay it down with the brush and just hold it into place with the do-rag. And then by drying it in position, we are reinforcing those broken temporary bonds. A permanent bond is broken with a chemical and is set into place with a neutralizer, but we're not doing that. We just broke the bonds with something that had a little bit of water in it, and then the mousse aspect of the product helps hold it into place as well. I hope that made sense to you. If you need more explanation on the difference or what it's actually doing, put it in the comments. I'll definitely answer for you. Again, when you're applying products like that with water in it, you really got to make sure you're drying them all the way out. Otherwise, you may curl up what was already laid down waves. After removing the do-rag, I'm going to wipe the whole perimeter of the lineup with a rough neck strip and 91% alcohol. 70% is not enough to strip the oils and products out of a client's hair. 99 is too much. So again, that textured neck strip exfoliates the skin. As you know, when you shave, cut hair close, you want to exfoliate first for the best performance as well as outcome, no bumps. Cool setting on my blow dryer. Drying out the strong holding spray, I brushed on his lineup. And after I feel like that's dry, I'm going to check which temple line seems to be the furthest back naturally. I identified it's his right side, so I use my comb to check out where that temple line and the same angle intersects on his eyebrow or his eye, and then I approach the other side and attempt to match it to that. Making sure not to go too high into the front line area. So after I put a line on, I'll see some flaws jump out. I may hit them then, or I may come back later. I noticed this temple line was looking a little bit longer, so I had to bring the blend up a little bit. Now I start in the center of the line after doing the temple lines, and I work my way towards the naturally highest side. I always do my lineups in the same order, and I think I get the best results doing it that way. So once we brought that line to the corner, using our sharpest set of liners, we're going to match the other side to that. Now, some people may have preferences. They don't want the side to match because they feel like it's being pushed back. Get that understanding before you're finished the consultation in the beginning of the service. Okay, that front view always shows me a lot in my taper area. It could just show flaws in the blend I don't see when I'm right beside them. So now we're beginning our nape area. These are, again, my sharpest set of liners, and you can see it's producing a very nice, strong, prominent line. Getting around the ear, that is just as important as the front line. That around the ear line sets off all the curves, it sets off all the angles. That's what haircuts are about. Sharp angles and smooth curves. They set each other off combined with a blend. So now we're just going to make sure that we're coming in at the same angle, and we're just hitting the edges of the hairs. We're not pushing into the natural line. Sensitive area liners at the nape, because my sharp ones are too sharp for most people's bottom of their neck. You could keep up to 3-4 liners if you want. I have about 4 myself. That way if a client comes in right after another, I got time for them to disinfect while I use my other ones. But in the beginning, it was just 2 sets of liners. And now that we got the solid base of a line up, I'm going to go ahead and apply a shave solution around this front line. Typically, someone with curly hair does not get a razor line on the back of their neck. I don't do it on my clients or over the ear. I don't use the foil shaver on the back of the neck either on most of my clients. Also, most people that got bumps on the back of their neck, it's because they got to wear collared shirts and it disrupts the hair breaking through the skin and gets trapped underneath, causes minor local infections, which are pimple or razor bumps. So suggest wearing less collared shirts if they can. Some people can't though because of their job. So I removed the shaving solution and the holding spray that's left over on the skin with steam towel. And then I use a powdered wash rag followed with my little brush to help dry out the lineup. And now I'm just getting rid of that wet look that can happen sometimes when you use that foam with my soft bristle brush before applying pomade. And again, soft bristle brush followed by my hand, kind of packing the hair down, helping it lay down as good as possible before we put the do-rag on for the second time. After the pomade and do-rag, I'll usually do the high heat and high fan setting with my diffuser on my blow dryer for about 20 seconds, and then I'll let it sit for a couple minutes. And after removing the do-rag, I'll check out any hairs coming over my established line. We're not pushing into the line at all. We are just hitting the hairs coming over the line we already made. I'm doing the same thing in the front as well. Making sure those corners are sharp. And them temple lines are the same length. That could throw off the whole look of your cut if you got one bun higher than the other. So I like to do a natural ash line after I've hit those strays after the pomade. And then that ash line helps kind of make the front line stand out better for me. Make any last minute adjustments before I apply my water resistant enhancements. It really doesn't need it, as you can see, but why not? It's 2024. We're trying to look the best as possible, so I'm all for the enhancements as long as there's a solid cut there. So when it comes to the front, I like to do the temple lines first again, and then I look at the front line, and it just doing it in that order helps to make things stand out on the front line. And now framing the work with a tan barber pencil. I like to do this little part here behind the ear. Again, same thing to the other side, bringing it across the front now. All right. Now I have hair oil. I'm just applying it for the shine and to lock in any moisture. And then the leftover on my gloves, I use to slightly smear away that barber pencil. Now it's not all going away, but it's just a little bit, just enough. We remove the bulk of it. And now with a soft brush and a wash rag, we remove just about all of it. And just moving to the other side, doing the same thing. There's just a tiny bit of a shadow left of it. I want to be subtle with this barber pencil. And now I apply witch hazel alcohol again, and that could lighten it up a tiny bit. Now holding spray. And while that's drying, I'm hitting the strays, and they pop off the hair real easily because that holding spray. This is the finished work. This is what makes the haircut really look its best. All those strays coming off your waves are distracting the eye from seeing them. So I'm going to comb the hairs over the front line one last time. Again with my sharpest set of liners. I'm only hitting the overhang. I'm not pushing the line up back. It's important to be delicate when you're cutting hair too. You're going over the line that much. You don't want to whelp them up. See, my client's happy. He's got to go back to college, but not without a fresh cut. Haircut ain't done yet. Nobody wants an afro at the bottom of their taper. Nobody wants to be all whelped up in the back neither, so be mindful of that, using sensitive area liners back here. And my pet peeve, there's always fuzz by people's eyes, so I always make sure I get that. Comes from being in the Marines inspections. They used to hit us for blonde hair on our ears as well. Okay, a little witch hazel alcohol mix where I just use my trimmers and my guy is ready to go back to school. Yes, sir. Clean. So a reminder, this is how he came in here. This is how he left out. So try out these steps on your next dark brush wave haircut. Let me know how it went for you. I appreciate you watching. Go ahead and subscribe now for more tutorials.